Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to another Monday Night Live edition of the Suffolk Non-League Show. It's the bank holiday, still, just about. It's 8:30. You know what time it is. Welcome along, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you've all had an amazing bank holiday weekend. And obviously, for a lot of you in the chat, it will be the return of football, which is absolutely fantastic. A lot of you would have been playing, managing, coaching, possibly being a spectator, but we won't go down that. We won't go down that avenue. But once again, I am joined by my colleague, good friend, Mr. Adam Wade. Adam, how are you doing, my man? You well?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Yeah, really good. Thank you. I've had a really nice weekend. It's been good to catch up with a few old friends and sort of see some sort of familiar faces, and got some really good news from one friend, which is fantastic. And can't wait for that to be talked about in a little bit more detail later on. But yeah, it's been a really, really good weekend. And what a way to top it off by getting to spend it with my online family as well. But what about you? How's your weekend been?
Yeah, good to see loads of friends again. And I don't know, it is starting to feel a bit different, isn't it? Which is nice. Football Twitter popping off everywhere, which is always eventful.
It was nice to see a Saturday afternoon where the timeline is not full of like normal football, in the nicest way of saying that, like the Ipswiches, the Norwiches, the Man Uniteds, Chelseas, and all that kind of stuff like that. It was nice to see non-league football on my timeline again, even if it was just the occasional update, maybe a half-time or a full-time or whatever the case may be. But just to have it there was just refreshing.
Yeah. It seemed like everyone's gambling habits have gone out the window, because I didn't hear about anyone's ACCAs that got ruined this weekend. All I saw was grass pitches with lads running about.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It was really nice.
Yes. And from what I can see, from what people have been saying online, rather, the amount of people out walking their dogs this weekend, right at the moment where people were playing football matches, is incredible. So
unbelievable scenes.
I know. Make of that what you will. But yes, as I said, I hope you've all had a good weekend. What have you been up to? Let us know down in the comment section. Before we get too far into tonight's show, just want to say a very quick word from our sponsors.
A massive thank you to all of our sponsors on the Suffolk Non-League Show: Starling and Lock, Matchday Marketing, GBS, Your Shirts, and Clabber Creative. GBS are a family-run construction company in Ipswich, operating nationwide with over 30 years experience, offering fire protection, diamond drilling, commercial building, health and safety, and asbestos removal. Starling and Lock, self-employed electrician in the Stowmarket and Suffolk area since 1989, offering domestic work and certificates for people buying and selling houses. An NIC/EIC member. Matchday Marketing, sports marketing and branding company, helping enhance the image and profile of grassroots and non-league clubs at a very low cost, utilising over 20 plus years in the game. Your Shirts, eye-catching, professional-looking garments for your business, team, club or organisation, with a range of printing methods to cover all individual needs. Clabber Creative is a creative agency based in Framlingham, Suffolk, offering fully managed football club websites. They are about giving your club a professional image and the ongoing support to maintain it. Links for all of these companies will be in the description below. Go and check them out and tell them that DJam has sent you.
And for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you will notice that across the top bar here, we have a new graphic design and we have a brand new sponsor. An absolutely massive thank you to Alpha Surveys for becoming the latest sponsor of a Suffolk Non-League Show. Without these guys across the top and everybody who puts money towards the show, we cannot do what it is that we do at the moment with the amount of improvements that we've been made. So an absolutely massive thank you to Alpha Surveys. That video will be updated, and we're going to try and shorten it a little bit as well, just to pack in as much information as possible. But yeah, brand new sponsor on board, and hopefully, Adam, from that perspective, another step that we can do to make improvements to the channel. Very exciting times.
Time to start planning the next steps of probably looking to making content a bit easier is probably the next step for us. At this point, rather than going from our bodged together setups to more purpose built for what we want to do, I think is probably the next stage where we're at now. And it'll be really good to bring that to life for everybody and sort of get those user improvements to streamline things a bit, I think.
100%. And as always, as well as the sponsors, we do just want to say a massive thank you to all of our Ko-fi members. For anybody who wants to make a one-off donation to the show, you can do so by going to kofi.com/the Suffolk Non-League Show. Click the link in the description below and you can put a one-off donation towards us. If you want to make that support one step further, you can go towards patreon.com and, like these absolute legends, put a monthly amount, a little as £1. Any amount that you put towards it on a monthly basis would be much appreciated. Adam, do you just want to give the guys a very quick update on the Ko-fi changes that we've made? Because we have altered a few things on there, which has been from you guys as a request. Because with Ko-fi, there are restrictions about how much you are or what platforms you can donate through. But we've made some changes to it, haven't we?
The benefit of the Ko-fi page is that anything you give anything supporters give to creators, they get 100% of the funds less the PayPal fee. As normal, they don't take any cut from it at all. So something that we've done is to kind of align it with everything else. You can now, like, a coffee now only costs £1. So think of it as a Greg's coffee rather than a small Costa at this point. But we also kind of acknowledge that people are saying that, well, I don't have PayPal or whatever and don't want to give monthly. Is there any other way? And we don't really have that method of support. So we've signed up and made a partnership with Stripe, I think it is, who just do debit card payments. So you can just pay however you like. I say debit card because please don't put any money on a credit card to go towards us.
Yes, don't do that. As I said, Patreon and also Ko-fi, if you want to donate towards the show, that'd be fantastic. If you do want to go one step further, you can of course head over to the Suffolk Non-League Show shop and purchase a hoodie, t-shirt, a hat, or a mug. And quite frankly, with the weather we've been having, you could have picked any one of those items and been covered over this weekend. It's been
could have covered you today with all of those items.
Yeah, absolutely mental. And as always, we do now have the super chat available. So next to the comment section on YouTube, you will see a $sign. If you want to put something towards the channel and bring it up on the show right here, right now, any message that you put up on there, I have to read out. You've seen it in recent weeks where you guys have been absolutely killing me with making me say stuff about Ipswich Town and berating Norwich and stuff like that. If you want to put any comment up on the screen this week, click the super chat, put something towards the channel. Would be much appreciated. Let's get some of your messages up on the screen here because loads of you are piling in this evening, which is great to see. Mark Watts is in the building. Good evening, mate. Hope you're all right. As is Connor. Evening, lads. Shem. Evening. Happy Easter. Hope you're well. Great feeling last Saturday. Yes, I bet it was. And yes, we are doing very well. Stu, Matchday Marketing is here. Hope you're all right, mate.
Thanks for the hard work this weekend, Stu. Appreciate it.
Yes, Stu
this came together in a couple of days, really.
He sorted out all of the graphics and changes and updates that we've made now, and also for the YouTube channel, which I'm going to be doing and sorting out during the week. So a massive thank you to him. Ryan is here as well. Evening, mate. Hope you're good. Slim. Evening, gentlemen. Hope you're well. Yes, we are, mate. As Ben Froud is also here. Evening. Looking forward to tonight's episode. Me too, mate. Really am. It's a good way of rounding up this weekend, which has been a fantastic weekend. Carla Louise is in the building. Evening. Looking forward to seeing my old dad on tonight's show. Yes, yeah.
And dish some dirt then, Carla.
Yeah, exactly. Get involved in that comment section, Carla. 100%. Leave us as many comments as you want. John Williams, good evening, guys. Looking forward to hear from Spreaders. I'm sure he'll have some good stories to tell from the local non-league scene. Yes, fingers crossed. We hope so. Dean Cooper, good evening, all, and happy Easter. Stuart Spreadbridge, have a good one, pal. Also, a lot of bird watchers are offered on Saturday. Yes, yeah, bird watchers, dog walkers, whoever you may be. There was a lot. I did see that. It's quite surprising, actually, the amount of people that were openly posting pictures on social media.
It did make me laugh.
And there was people sat on like picnic benches and like people just like openly like standing in like crowded groups, and people were quite open about it, which, you know, obviously the fact that there's not meant to be anybody there, which is why I didn't turn up. But There we go. It's up to them. Ben Moore is here. Evening. Hope you're well. Spent Easter watching football and spending time with my dad. Just got back to mum's in time for the show. Yes, Ben. Love
Thanks,
that.
Ben.
That is commitment. Good man. Quick giveaway. First person to name their team will get a kit concept at the end of the show. Get in the comment section right now. Love that. First person to name their team will get a kit concept at the end of the show. I will bring up the first comment that I see. Love that. Absolutely love that. I have nothing but good things to say about my dad. He's not paid me, I promise. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. From Matchday's message in there, get a team in there now. Here we go. First one, Wickham Market. The first one I saw in there is from Shem. Because literally 2 seconds later, we had Gronsborough on there. So Shem, contact Stu over at Matchday Marketing and he'll sort something out for you. No, Ben. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that.
We'd do it in yellow and green for banter, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you 100% would. 100% would. Absolutely love that. So we do have a couple of news items to go through before we bring Stuart onto the screen here. Of course, we had our standard Monday night updates, which is just typical. We had our announcement from Mr. Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, God help us, who has stated that we are now moving into step 2 of the UK's recovery into getting life back to normal. And not 100% clarification from the FA at this point. However, if we look at what step 2 did provide us in the last update that was given, we do have a couple of updates to go through with you. So on the 12th of April, which will be next Monday, the UK will move into step 2 of the roadmap recovery. This means that as of the 12th, socially distanced spectators are permitted in accordance with the government guidelines. However, steps 3 to 6 remain the same. Fans cannot return before May 17th. So effectively, any SIL senior and below games that are on, you are allowed to attend. However, Furlough None North upwards, you cannot go to games. Adam, quick thoughts on that before I move on to the next screen.
What's the bloody difference?
Well, that is something you'd have to ask them.
I think that's a ridiculous bit of ruling. Just stick some numbers on it and just let people in. I can't imagine why that would cause a problem. I can't understand it for a moment, to be honest.
No.
And those clubs, I think, are going to feel quite hard done by. I take it's following the lines of they're aware that clubs below step 6 generally won't have stands, much shelter to play at.
Well,
and stuff,
I'm not sure on the thinking there. I don't get the difference between the steps because, I mean, quite frankly, if you're standing in a field or whether or not you're standing at a step 6 stadium, there's next to no difference between the facilities that are on offer. If anything, you're probably more likely to have hygiene rating and actual COVID stuff in place at a higher level facility than you are for step 7 and below. So I can't for the life of me figure it out, but those are the rules. So as I said, SIL senior and below, if there are any games on as of not next weekend, but the following one, you are allowed to start attending games. So there is that. Also, a really crucial point for all of our players and managers and coaches that are in the chat as well. For step 7 and below, the current rules of moving into step 2 state the following: that changing rooms can be used following strict COVID-19 protocols, and outdoor food and drink are allowed following the rule of 6 or 2 households. So for those who are wondering about the atmosphere, and obviously that being a massive part of the reason why you do go to football, etc., the changing rooms are allowed to be in use as of the 12th of April. And again, Adam, thoughts on that?
I think that will make football all of a sudden a lot more appealing to a lot more people. It has been the continual gripe for the whole of this playing season. It's not a season, playing session, really, isn't it? That changing rooms, the lack of ability to use them has ruined the experience and the ability to play. And we've had angles all over the place, really, as to what we should be doing with that. And I think that's a major move forward. I think clubs will be able to follow the COVID-19 protocols, no problem. I don't think that's going to be an issue. For fans, the outdoor and food and drink being allowed and stuff, like, brilliant. Like, let's actually start opening up ways that clubs can earn a bit of revenue as well. We're all aware that clubs at step 7 and below have got a lot less ability to do that maybe than some of the other ones, but that's still a means of maybe getting bars open and serving people outside where seating allows and stuff like that. So I think it's good news for all of our
SIL
clubs, really. Yeah, all of our SIL clubs. I think it's a good step forward. And if anything, it feels like a bit closer to normality. That's what's important.
Yeah, 100% on that one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We will, now that we are allowed to go back, unless anything changes, because we've had the update from the government, but we haven't had the update from the FA to say that those rules and those steps are still in place. This is just that from what was in place last time. But if those rules are applying, then as of what we will be the 12th, which is the Monday, as of the 13th, if there are any games that are ongoing, I will be going back to them, because now that socially distanced spectators are allowed, I'm going back to a game, because that was always the fear beforehand. I was just kind of, you never know who would say, oh, I've just seen such and such here, and someone could get you into trouble, and I'm not prepared to risk anything to go and watch a game of football. But now we're allowed to go back. I'm 100% going to be going along to a game, get some recording practice under my belt, and just enjoy a game of football again, really, and just get back to enjoying what it was that we were doing before all of this.
I'm sure Mrs. Starling can't wait for you to get your recording practice underway, mate. You're in for some eventful evenings.
She is buzzing to get rid of me. I can tell you that for sure.
Oh, I was thinking you're going to be doing some home recording practice before you got out of the house, but never mind.
It's still 12 minutes before 9 o'clock, mate. Come on.
Sod it.
Come on. That is shocking. We've had Slim, who's wrote, might be due to more of an open space. I mean, to be honest, they're more or less the same. I don't know.
They've all got air above them.
Yeah.
That's my view on it, Alex.
Yeah.
The space is the same. It's just there's a fence.
So Dan has put, can I ask a genuine question, please? Why have clubs accepted to play in SIL League friendlies, then decided to go their own way and do cup matches and probably pull out of the fixtures that the SIL have given? No idea.
I think they want competitive football that has got a result.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I think I can understand that some clubs might be annoyed that they've then pulled out of friendlies that they previously said they've got, but creating their own cups and having their own thing there creates a bit of a competitive atmosphere and gives the games a bit more of an edge. I don't know how the leagues are viewing it, that people have decided to do that and go their own way. After the effort of arranging games, I should imagine there might be a little bit of frustration there. That's just me speculating, because I can imagine it took a bit of effort to try and synchronise everything and sort things out. But
yeah, maybe.
People are desperate for competitive football as well.
Yeah, maybe. Tony's put, need to see what the COVID protocols the FA expect. Previously, it was 6 at a time only, with a clean, clean between each group. Totally unfeasible. Not entirely sure on that one. Connor, SIL games usually have more spectators and furlough none. But why wait until fixtures are out, then creating a cup to see what teams do want to play? Again, you'd have to ask the people directly on that one.
A bit of an eternal question, that one. That you could go on forever with that, as to them knowing when. I think it's almost like you're waiting for the league to say, here's some fixtures, to know that you can definitely play. Then when you've got that flag, you want to commit to the games in case no one wants to go competitive. so you get them from the SIL. Then if you get enough to do the competitive results, then you'll bin off the non-competitive. It's like working that way down a filter to find the games that they want to do. Meanwhile, wasting a lot of time on the SIL side of it, but competitive games at the end of it. I think it's an interesting concept.
Yeah. I was only trying to guess. I think it's too silly. I think it's silly too. Should be able to control it more in a seated ground. You would have thought so, but apparently not. I think for whatever reason, these people don't really understand what the facilities are like at this level of the game. I think they just kind of bunch everybody into the same group, unfortunately, but does
Boris Johnson go and watch non-league football on a regular basis at various steps?
Well, it's probably not him that's making those rules, but yes, I know what you mean.
Do you know what I'm
saying? Ben, oh God, if Ipswich beat MK on Saturday, then for the whole of next week's show, James has to show his hair instead of the famous hat. No, because knowing Ipswich show probably will win.
I need to do something on Saturday. Anyone else enjoy the absolute dross that was on display today? Awful.
I didn't watch it, mate. No changing rooms is the answer to that question, says Maverick.
And then you're back to square one, Maverick.
Yeah. Evening, everyone. Yes, good evening, mate. Hope you're all right. Why not cap it and say maximum of 200 spectators for furlough and above?
God, Dean, common sense. Don't get that very often, do you?
No idea. You could go down that route, which is what obviously we had last season, and obviously Bury capped their tickets at 400 apiece, didn't they? That is potentially an answer to do, but I think at this point, a lot of people just are kind of the opinion, well, let's just get the summer done. Let's get back to pre-season, and then we'll worry about what things need to be in place and how we can kind of work things moving forward. Maybe it's too much for a lot of people. To kind of get things up and running for a couple of weeks and then to stop it again and then start it all again when pre-season happens. I think for a lot of clubs between step 3 and 6, it's just a write-off and then we go again.
There would be less appetite at steps 3 and 6 for clubs to come back just to do friendlies than there would in the SIL. Because of contract situations and stuff. I don't think as many clubs would take the option as we think they would. It's just the common sense approach of the fact that you're all playing within similar. It's ultimately a pitch with some space around the middle around the edge to walk. Like, why can't we get a few people in there if there's anyone does want to do it? But,
yeah. Dan has put, but yet one team that is in the cup are actively looking for a friendly match. Sorry for talking about it, but it's just taking the piss, I think. But hey ho, let the show begin. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't even know what club you're.
It would be quite interesting, actually. It might be an idea for us to kind of approach somebody from that tournament and kind of get their thoughts and opinions on why they've done it. So, if that's something you'd like to hear, we'll actively reach out and see what we can try and do. So, let us know. Sorry, they'll be back next year, Dean. This season. Oh, they're talking about Crane now. Look, at the moment, we are hearing a lot of rumours about Crane Sports. But nothing official has come out from either the league or from the club. So at the moment, we as a show have kind of said that we're not going to talk about it in as much detail as what some people might like us to until we hear something official, because at the moment it's just a lot of hearsay. And yes, I know a lot of people think that they have been told a definitive thing, but until we hear it officially, we don't feel right to talk about something that quite clearly is ongoing and is quite clearly he's upsetting for a lot of people. We hope that it's not true, but we might have more of an update to be able to give people next week. But as I said, for the time being, it's a sensitive topic and not one that I think you were in agreement with that, aren't you, Adam? It's just not one that's worth
with this sort of stuff. I'd rather we just go down the official line, get somebody on that wants to talk about it when things are right, rather than speculating over what's going on. It doesn't feel right at the minute, especially with how highly regarded they are as a club and the history they've got.
Yeah,
it would be a bit silly of us to then come out and just starting to speculate this, that, and the other as to why things may or may not have gone the way they have. So, like, let's just wait and see what happens. Like, we don't know, we're none the wiser as to what the future holds for any of the boys there or whatever. And we've let's be honest, we've all seen the same stuff on social media.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's as far as it goes at the minute. We've got additional contacts in terms of like trying to sort something out in the future, but honestly, there's no more to it than that in terms of what we know.
Exactly it. One other small news item before we do get Spreads onto the screen and start talking to him. A very quick one, Adam. I don't know if you saw this news over the past week. Clubs at step 3 to 6 have been awarded a further 3.1 million of grant funding from the DCMS. This follows the 10 million made available in January. Funds will be distributed for the Football Stadia Improvement Fund. What do you make of that 3.1 million to steps 3 to 6?
Is it a loan?
No, it's grants.
Good. Needed. Like, that plugs a gap. COVID has created many gaps. I've spoken about some of the ones I'm most concerned about before. Youth player development is something I think is going to be horrific going forward, and the players have lost too much time, especially considering like the pillars of what they're trying to develop kids on. There's so much social stuff that they're going to lose. But income, the first place when income comes back, it won't be going on developing grounds. They've got to build the coffers up again. We had somebody come on from the league the other week, and for those of you that weren't here, they said like they've basically lost half of their backup fund.
Yeah,
clubs will have a backup fund in place, and they can't do anything until they restore their backup in case anything happens again.
Yeah,
this is genuinely much needed.
Yeah. What is actually quite interesting though, and I sat there and worked this out before we went live because that's how much of a sad act I am. Do you know how much that would average out for each club?
I haven't done the maths.
It averages out to 3,300 per club.
Are all clubs eligible for it, or are they? Because if they're not,
anyone between steps 3 to 6.
Yeah, no. But what they'll do is they'll calculate a take-up rate. So that may be the case, and the grant will also be means tested. So the FA have got a system in place where like deprived areas are more likely to get a lot more funding, and it will be a similar geographical thing where certain areas will be more eligible to get this money. It won't, because if it would have come out like that, they would have said every club will be allocated £3,300 for improvements. Like, the problem is £3.1 million is a lot of money, but when you break it down like that, you realize how many clubs have got to fight over it. And what does £3,000 buy you? It wouldn't even fence much of a pitch. With Duralock or something like that. I can imagine I doubt you'd get much of a pitch done for £3,300. So I don't know. I don't know what clubs, this isn't going to be building clubhouses for people. No,
definitely not. Dean's comment, again, money stops at step 6 and teams in step 7 and below get nothing.
What do I think about that? This is a hard one, isn't it? Like, I don't know much. I think it's a really good point. I don't think enough it's done generally to promote that level of the game, though. I think that problem is deeper. I think the game is genuinely promoted to step 6 quite highly, but I think below that there isn't as much talk. And it, SIL and that needs a bit of other leagues like it need more traction to push things on. But
so Mavericks money has been made available for step 7 and below for pitches as well. So
I saw there's pitch improvement fund. I saw that. It's how much money is enough money for those step 7 and below clubs, and think about how many clubs there are. How much money do those clubs need to keep pushing them on and keep them ticking and going forwards? Because of the regional nature of it, that 3.1 million would be you could do 10 times that, and you'd probably barely get enough to give the clubs the same amount of money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how many clubs there are below that level, but if you think of the way the pyramid works, it would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, one other update before we do bring spreads up onto the screen here. I'm just going to share my screen for a few moments because we have had a bit of an update in terms of the cup competitions. Now, this was sent over by Suffolk FA, so we really do appreciate them actually sending this across to us because we do. This is exactly what we want moving forward, communication-wise between the leagues and the counties and stuff like that. Moving on into next season, they have given us some updates in terms of dates for certain cup competitions which are going on at the moment. So we've got the Suffolk Senior Cups. We've got the second rounds to be completed on the 24th of April, quarterfinals on the 8th of May. The semi-finals and the final is still to be confirmed at this point. The Junior Cup is the 17th. We've got the third round on May the 1st, quarterfinals on the 8th, and the semi-finals and the finals to be confirmed as well. We've got some dates for the reserve cups as well, which is good. The primary cups, you can see a load of dates are all up on the screen here. The Women's Cup as well. We've got some dates for the second and quarterfinals. Again, semi-finals and finals to all be confirmed, as well as the Sunday Cups, the Sunday Shield, the Sunday Trophy, Suffolk Vets Cup as well. And then it moves on to the Under-18 tournament as well. So just a massive thank you to Suffolk FA for sending that over to us. It's really good. And really positive that we've now got some dates penciled in for some of these cup competitions, which obviously myself and Adam will be attending. Fingers crossed if Adam can join me as well. But really positive news in that respect. Some actual competitions that are going ahead.
It will be good to get back out to those. Finals day was so much fun when we've covered it in the past.
Yeah,
Today is a step closer to us believing that they can set those dates.
Yeah.
This document was received last week, so
yeah.
But this is a step closer to us knowing that they'll be able to set those dates towards the back end of May. So we'll just have to see how things go.
Dan Barnard, just a quick update. I have seen Vinny. He's still about. Brilliant. Absolutely love that. Good man. Tell him to get involved in the comment section a bit more. There you go. So, without further ado, let's bring our guest on for this evening. The excitement and the buzz that we got online the moment we announced that Spreads was coming on was absolutely brilliant. So, I'm delighted to be able to say that Stuart Spreadbridge is now joining us live. Stuart, how are you, my man? You well?
Good evening, James. I'm very well. Good evening, Carl. I better say good evening to her while she dish loads of dirt on the chat. So, even boys.
How are you finding things at the moment? How has everything been for you?
Yeah, great. I don't mind lockdown. I'm a miserable git, so I'm quite happy with spending time by myself or with my dog. Yeah, it's all good. Not too bad.
Good.
Good man.
With some family and that over the weekend and stuff, and slowly but surely we're starting to see some progress, aren't we? Some way out. So yeah, it's all good.
Definitely feels that way.
Exactly, yeah. How obviously we before we kind of get too far into, and obviously we've got loads of questions that have been sent in from everyone. You yourself have been out of the management game for what seems like it's a couple of seasons now, isn't it? Since you left Westerfield. How have you found that time away from managing? I know you go to quite a few games from what I do see online, etc. How are you finding things?
Yeah, okay. I mean, it was like everything else. I'd been at Westerfield for 6.5 years doing the job, and it just became the impossible job towards the end. You know, when me and Coops had to play, Coops had to play 90 minutes, and I played 45 minutes away at Old Newton at the age of 49, and we lost 10-2, and then you asked how many players were going to be available the week after, and 6 of them in that change room said they're not available the week after. And then Saturday night and the Sunday morning, you get players text you saying, I'm not enjoying it anymore, and I'm looking to leave. Then I've got a full-time job. I didn't need another one, certainly one that I wasn't get paid for. So yeah, unfortunately, that was the only decision really, and we did it really to hopefully give Westerfield a chance to survive, like Carla. It was done to give Westerfield a chance to get new management in, and new setup in, and hopefully normally a new manager brings players or half a dozen players, and that was quite clearly what me and Coops didn't have. So the real reason was just to give Westerfield a chance to try and regroup. Unfortunately, it didn't really end that way. They nearly went to the wall completely. It just needed to be done. I needed a rest, really. I needed a break. And for the life of me, for weeks after weeks, I just felt that I'd done bad by Westerfield. I'd done wrong by them by sort of leaving them in the lurch. Sometimes, you can't do anything. When you're at your lowest ebb and you can't just do anything and you can't bring any more players in, you just can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, the old game, I was away at a fishing lake with my wife for a few days, and one afternoon she said, "Is that all right if I go in the hot tub?" I went, "Yeah, great, off you go." And I was on WhatsApp for about 2.5 hours trying to get players in and trying to do that, and that just became, you just couldn't do it anymore. So unfortunately, that was the only thing really to do. Since then, I've just sort of bummed around with my mates who used to come and watch Westerfield every week. Mates that you have a pint with on a Friday night, been mates with for years, and we just go around and we pick a local game on the Friday night or the Saturday in the pub. We'll pick a local game on a Friday night and say, right, what's the match of the day in the senior or Div 1, and we'll all turn up there and rip the piss out of each other all afternoon and just watch a game of football, just socialise. So, and having managed to been around over the seasons, and the great thing about football, which you guys have touched on so many times, it's the social aspect of it all. Is that you can go to any ground anywhere, and the chances are you'll know someone, or someone will want to come up and say hello, or I'll have a chat with you. And that side of things is that I've never been away, so it's been great. It's been great watching football, but without the hassle of turning up and getting soaking wet on a Tuesday night, and you get home from work about 5:30 in the middle of November, December, and it's absolutely slinging it down. You don't have any tea. You get a quick shower. You get your football gear on, and then you get half a dozen players texting you saying, "I'm not going to make training tonight. I'm still at work." Well, when they're a painter and decorator, or they work outside in the pitch black in November. I'll stand there at 50 years old like a mud, getting soaking wet, and cold, and they can just toss it off at home watching the Champions League. So, but no, and then for the first few weeks, it was like really. I didn't really know what to do with myself. Really, I was going to watch a game on the Saturday, but like on a Tuesday night, my missus was going, I want to watch Holby, or that's my night. Tuesday night's just my night. I want you in. So I'm just sort of sitting there looking at my phone or trying to do something. And for the first few weeks, it took a little bit of time to get used to it all. I didn't really know. Didn't know what to do with myself. I had so much spare time all of a sudden.
You're still sat there recruiting players out of habit. You found another team of 11 without a team to put them in.
And you just thought, well, I ain't got a team sheet to write out. I ain't got tactics to write out. I ain't got set pieces to write out on a Friday night. I ain't got the calls to suddenly so-and-so can't make it or whatever. And then I have to speak to the reserve manager or whoever it was, probably then try and, take a couple of their players or leave them how they were. So it's all, it was weird for a few weeks, and then you get used to it. That's like everything else that you get used to. We almost get used to not turning up and watching the game on a Saturday now. So
that's so true.
So you just get into that sort of that pattern, don't you? So, but yeah, hopefully now we can all get back to some sort of normality and go and watch a game and see your friends, see people that you like talking to, you enjoy speaking football with, even the idiots that you go and watch and who only see everything one way, But even with them a little bit, and I just, I can't wait. It's long overdue for everyone, I think.
You clearly enjoy your football. Just going back to something you said earlier, that people phoned you and said they're not enjoying it anymore, and they want to leave as such. One, how much did that hurt to hear other people say they're not enjoying playing under you, but did that snowball into effect where you were no longer enjoying your football at that point as well?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I've been around long enough to know that players are players, if you know what I mean. They'll you know, as a manager, you're gonna, you know, when I did manage, when I was managing, I was never in any players group or anything like WhatsApp group or nothing like that. I just had me, Coops, and the reserve team managers, and we had a reserve side at Westerfield in a group. And then that was it. I wasn't involved in any of the players groups. I said to Coops that, you know, in my opinion, we don't need to be in there. I don't need to be told I'm a twat because I ain't picked someone on a Saturday night. And I'm well aware of that, especially if things have gone wrong. But yeah, so it was a case of really, yeah, it does hurt really, because you invest a lot of time in people. You really do give them an opportunity to play, and you know, it does hurt. It takes, you know, you shouldn't take things too personally, but you do a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because you give up a lot of your time. It's your hobby at the end of the day as much as it is theirs. So you want them to enjoy it, and then if they don't enjoy it, at the end of the day, no one enjoys getting beaten every week. No one enjoys not turning up. You know, me and Coops didn't particularly enjoy playing football at our age. You know, you know, it does hurt. It does hurt a lot. Yeah.
It's an easier game when you're winning, isn't it? Like in terms of the psychological management and looking after people, it's easy to not turn up to something that's sinking, and then that's got a domino effect as such. And
everyone wants to turn up when you're winning, don't they? There's no excuses.
Exactly.
No one going shop with their missus, or no one getting a haircut, or you know, it's everyone wants to play. Yeah, and then suddenly when you have a couple of bad results, and then you know, that's when you start to lose a few people, or then suddenly the 7-dayers come in, or you know, that then I'm not enjoying it, or the training numbers start to dwindle, and it just becomes a bit of a chore, really. You know, like I said, it's your hobby, and then you start to think to yourself, well, am I doing this for the right reasons? You know,
yeah.
At the end of the day, my kid, I'm a bit more fortunate. My wife works Saturdays, my kid's grown up, so there's only sort of me and my missus at home, really. She's always known that I've done football, but even she was started saying that, you know, this is making you unhappy, or you're getting annoyed, or you're just sitting there looking, you're just spending all night on your phone. And that was really trying to bring players in, or trying to entice players, or keep those interested, you know. But it was a losing battle. It was a battle that I wasn't going to win. So you got to do right. I want to do right by Westerfield, because they were always really fair and loyal to me. So
yeah. As Mavericks put on here, it always amazes me that it ends up with the managers and coaches and committee members go to keep the clubs going. Players throw the towel in so quickly. Do you kind of agree on that part?
Yeah, spot on. The players have got, you know, they've got so many. They've got the choice, haven't they? You know, if they don't play for Westerfield, or don't play for me or whoever, they can go and play for someone else. That's, you know, and you know, it's so easy these days, isn't it? You know, there's Facebook, you know, there's Messenger, there's WhatsApp. You know, you can get hold of anyone's number, private message anybody, private message another, you know, a mate who's playing for another team, and say, look, I'm not enjoying it at wherever. Get them to put a 7-day, and I'll come over.
Yeah,
you know, that's the easiest thing. That's the easiest thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, and that's what the players do. They've got the choice. The managers don't really have a choice. Well, they can leave, they can stay or leave, I guess. But you know, the choice is, you know, you'd hope that a manager would try and stay and save the club, as the committee members do. But the players, you know, players sign players. I've said that quite often on the live chat over the Timmies. That I don't believe manage really many clubs, especially at SL senior level. But players certainly help bring players. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword, though, isn't it? Because I don't know how you view this compared to like years ago when you would have been playing, but like other people have said, people would stay in teams for longer, and you'd see your time through at a club for a much longer period of time. And now players can go around and find what fits them. So almost with all of the different social aspects now, people have got the ability just to go and find somewhere that fits them and suits for them, be that with mates, or be that because they can get in somewhere that they see as being more successful and stuff. And I suppose that's a positive for like one on one hand, but the negative is, as a manager, you can't ever rely on the fact that the people you've got in front of you are really going to stay the season because of all of those different forces that are going to take effect as the season goes. And the only way you can probably galvanise that is by basically hanging yourself at the top of the league for the whole season, and that's only one team's spot.
Yeah, 100%, most definitely. I mean, the demise of Sunday football's probably got a lot to do with mates playing together on a Saturday, and also the senior status of players being abolished a few years back has certainly enabled those who want to be the bigger fish in the small pond lower in the league, so they can just sort of go and play with their mates. Whereas before, I don't know how long ago it was now, the senior status was abolished, but that used to be that you could only play, you couldn't play no lower than Div 1 in the SIL if you'd played furlough none previous. But now you've got furlough none players coming down and playing Div 2, Div 3. Fair enough, it's up to them, but and some of them might be doing it for legitimate reasons. They run their own business. There's a lot more people self-employed these days, so the time, and they need to work obviously to bring money in, and some of them may well have been furloughed for several months. But Sunday football certainly helped. I mean, I played for the same team from under 14 level to when I was 42, when the team broke up on a Sunday football. Made over 500 appearances for them on a Sunday morning, and but that was when you were playing with your mates, and then obviously this Saturday you'd go and play with potentially as high as you could possibly play, and you might even been playing in some of those teams where you actually didn't like some of your teammates or particularly be fond of them, but you still play because it was just, you were playing as high level as you could, in a good team full of good players, and unfortunately Sundays is just, well, I wouldn't even know how many divisions there were in Sundays now. Obviously, if it wasn't for Kitchener's doing their social media thing, there'd probably be no information about Sunday morning football unless you actually went and searched for it.
It's quite odd, the Kitch thing, because although it's all about their team and what they do and stuff, subconsciously they're hugely raising the profile of Suffolk Sunday football.
Massively.
And it's a massive, massive thing. And I think, again, that draws people into that attitude of, I want to have a go at them. And the quality starts to shift again. And it could be quite exciting that in 3, 4, 5 years' time, as this filtration starts to happen, as people go away from the like senior leagues as such and sort of go down, you could all of a sudden see a real split in where the quality of players are, and the quality of the league has got the potential to really, really explode because people are starting to play where their mates are and where they're comfortable and with what fits their social life.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely. I think we've seen it all in a lot of these teams over the years. Is that some of these teams have gone down to Division 3, Division 4 on a Saturday and started up, and then they've got to Division 1 of the SL, which is incredibly hard league to get out of. And they get there and have a couple of seasons, and they're all sort of 35, 36, and they just disappear then, and then the team folds or disappears completely. And that's happened sort of numerous times. I think you're right. I think they'll, who knows with this, certainly with the pandemic over the last couple of years or the last year, that there may well be a lot of guys who can't afford to play furlough none or can't afford to devote the time. Yeah, they'll get some money, but they can probably earn more money by doing, fitting someone's bathroom on a Saturday morning or doing plastering someone's living room on a Saturday than they can, go all the way to Swaffham, 11:30.
It's hard, isn't it? And we've had this conversation recently. Me and James were saying, like, where are these people? They get to a certain point in the game and they disappear.
Yeah.
So and there is no progression plan in place whereby people are starting to be filtered into the helping and volunteering side of it, or people don't want to do it, whatever their preference is. But where does that pool of talent and experience go next? And I think you're right. I think it just walks away. And it's a big problem.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that. There was a young lad who on social media the other week who got released from Ipswich. He came from Wales, and what he writ was, what he tweeted was really sort of soul searching, wasn't it? It was quite right from the heart, and how disappointed he was and how he felt that he didn't get the support. And I think a lot of these kids, when they go to the academies at either Norwich, Ipswich, Colchester, wherever they go, and from they go there from the age of 10, and and when they're 11 years old, I had a guy I used to work with. His son was there, and at 11 years old, they were giving him a diet sheet of what he should be eating during the week, ready for training. And on a Saturday morning, I'm thinking, Christ alive, he's 10 years old, and they're telling his parents what he should and shouldn't eat. He doesn't make up his mind, does he?
I know where my problem is now. I needed a diet sheet when I was 11, James. Look where it's got me not being signed into academy football.
Yeah, and then they get to 14, 15, and they're just cut, aren't they? There's no real. You've cut. You're not made it for the following season, and that's as brutal as that. And then they suddenly think to themselves, well, I don't know, perhaps I ain't going to go and play football anymore, or they just fall in love with it, and they're just lost to the game, aren't they? Same with even some of these academy players that sort of, that step 3 and step 2 clubs. If they don't make it, some of them just get lost to the game, and they just think, well, don't know, I just either go and play with my mates, or they just disappear, and that's the.
I think there's some voices there that, as a show, we kind of need to pay some attention to searching for, and so we can understand more like how that feels for somebody that now just hates the game, that had that love for it growing up. And it'd be really interesting to find out, at what point did you just decide this is just not for you? Like I used to work with somebody who used to be quite good and played for Ipswich for quite a while until he got injured, and that was it. Doesn't even watch football, doesn't even like it anymore.
Wow.
And it's the way he was treated between that progression that just killed it. And it shouldn't be like that. There's something definitely wrong with the integrity of how it's all handled.
Yeah, no, definitely. Going back to what we were talking about just a few moments ago, Ben asked a question earlier on saying, have you looked to get back into the coaching game? If so, would it be as a coach or as a first team manager? Any part of having that time off that you've been itching to get back into the game?
Yeah, I mean, I've started to. Me and Coops have had a few conversations recently that we're starting to look with regard to next season. If the right thing comes up, the right whether it be a project or whether it be a senior division or Div 1 or whatever, really, just to see what's what. No firm decisions either way, really. If something comes up that's interesting, I'm certainly not a coach. That's one thing I'm not. I'd much rather be the one that's hated by all the players than I would be trying to work out some drills and stuff like that. I've played with some great coaches over the years, people like Boschman and Skins and all this lot, and you just watch them on the grass and with the players. Coops is another one. He's fairly young and he's still only 36, 37, but watching him on the grass with the players is where he thinks on his feet, and he's just learned. You just watch them and they come alive on there. But then the manager side is when you've got to spend a bit of time with the committee, you've got to go and see the referee, see the opposition manager, fill the time sheet in, team sheet in, hand this in, hand that in, and that all takes time. And the committee want your time as well, committee meets and so on and so forth. So that's I prefer. I'll be honest. I prefer that side of the game than I do the coaching. To be honest with you.
No, that's absolutely fair enough. Fair enough. I'll tell you what. Let's get some people's questions in that we had sent over to us because I want to go through some of these. You would have seen them. You would have seen them already, Stuart, because I think a lot of them you were already tagged in on. So we've had. So Dean Cooper, obviously regular on the show, has asked the question. He's asked 3 questions actually. He said, how much money do you think that you owe in repairs to changing room doors? Is the first question.
Yeah. There was one game when we were at Westerfield when we were absolute shit in the first half. And you've been to Westerfield and you know that they've got the tea hut and they've got the little port cabins and they've got home side one on the right-hand side, away side on the left, and then they've got the tea urn in there. So we go in at half-time and I'm absolutely steaming. And Coops was saying, well, what do you want me to do? Go first or whatever? And I said, I'll go first. And there's a door in there and that's an old port cabin. And I slammed it shut. I let the players go in first. We give them sort of 30 seconds, just to see what they were saying amongst themselves. So I slammed it shut. And as I was starting to go into sort of rant mode, the door just popped open. So I just pushed it gently, and it popped open again. And on and on and on, and I was just getting angrier and angrier. And I could see some of the players starting to laugh because obviously they were quite funny. And in the end, I just opened it right up and then just slammed it shut, and the whole port cabin shook. And
Jesus.
they're going to take out my wages the next week for the repairs. But I didn't get paid anyway, so I just got one digestive left with me half-time cuppa. But yeah, God, man, that was. I really. The next thing was, if it had popped open again, I was going to rip it off its hinges. I was that angry at the time. Yeah.
So did that distract you from your team talk? Did you get your message across that you wanted to? Or were you too focused on the door?
I'll tell you what, I actually had to stop for a minute and let Coops then. While I was having my door issues, Coops carried on because see how angry I was going to get.
Carlos put on there. That's not like you, Dad. You're normally so calm. Brilliant. Question 2 from Dean. He's put: have you got any plans to get back into management? Well, we've kind of already talked about that. Are you? I mean, obviously I know you want to, but have you been enjoying the just the kind of ground topping side of it, just going from game to game and picking what you want?
Yeah, I have. I really have. That's sort of, if anything, that's sort of, that reignited my enthusiasm for it. Really, it just shows that I still had a sort of had a spark for it. It's nice, like I said earlier, it's nice not to have the worry about picking sides and doing this, that, and everything else. But the love has always been there. I do enjoy getting out in the fresh air and watching the game. Just keeping in touch with managers who have managed against and players. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You should start a YouTube channel, I reckon, if you carry on. It'd probably catch on.
Well, there ain't a lot of competition, to be fair, is there? Let's be honest.
Utter rubbish, everything that's out there, mate.
Yeah, I know.
There'd be massive complaints about I would be leading the Super Six then if I did my own YouTube channel, though.
You could call the channel like Spreads on Tour or something like that. Love it.
Yeah.
Question 3 is: but do you still have nightmares about Benall away? You're going to have to explain what this is.
I'd sort of forgotten about that, really. And now I get really angry about it again. We went to Ben Hall, who were going really well, and when I was at Westerfield, for some reason, we always had the wood over Ben Hall. We didn't. I don't think we'd lost to them at all when I was over there. And they had this Furbo Nunn ref. I can't remember his name now. And he was in the middle, and I think he sent one of ours off, booked another one, sent one of theirs off, and we were absolutely coasting. Where the goal disallowed right near the end, clear penalty disallowed, and then he just played the most ridiculous amount of added-on time, give him a penalty for a foul. Our goalkeeper, they put a corner across. Our goalkeeper got absolutely buried by this on-running defender coming in the head of the ball, and he gave it the other way, and he gave a penalty in about the 98th minute. Well, by that time, I just decided whether it was worth 50 quid or not, or 60 quid, just to tell him exactly what I thought of him. But that was just madness. I mean, and when you get the Benall players coming up to you at the end of the game and actually not really understanding the reasons why, he would.
You see that a lot in SIL. Like me and James, we haven't been to a lot of games this season, but we've seen players literally just laugh at decisions that are on the winning end of the foul and stuff. It's quite bizarre, sometimes at this level.
Well, James came and done a Westerfield versus Claydon a couple of years ago when I was there, and there was 2 of the most ridiculous decisions ever. Barney's there. Oh my God! And I mean, they got a penalty in the last couple of minutes, which I mean, he was about at least 5 yards outside the box. Yeah, and all right, my vantage point wasn't that great, but I could see that he was a long way outside the box. And I think it ended 2-2 in a 2-2 draw in the end. But no, I wasn't happy.
I do remember that interview. I will post a link to it. on social media throughout the week. If anybody wants to go back and listen to the interview, because it was it was brilliant.
They're the kind of things that ruin your weekend, aren't they? When you get that invested in your hobby, one little thing like that, that's your weekend done.
Claydon are a top side. You know, I've got a lot of time for Kenny and Shane. I really get on really well with both of those, and they've always been a really good side, and they're a tough side to play against. They play some great football, and we played out of our skin that day, and we were absolutely coasting. And he'd give a free kick away for a high, I think it was a clearance that hit someone's hand and it ricocheted to their centre forward, and he went and scored, and then they just give this penalty away, and oh my God, yeah, you're right. That just, the dog just cowers when I just go for its lead when I get home on Saturday night and think, Jesus Christ, it's freezing cold. I want a 6-mile walk on a Saturday evening. But yeah, there we go. We can't play without him, can we? So the rest.
Adam Potter says that late penalty decisions are payback for the other 95 minutes of abuse you give, Spreads.
I'm generally quite fair, I think.
Carlos, I've had many evenings ruined when he used to come home in the foulest of moods. There you go. Bill
That's the late
has
penalty decision ones.
Yeah, Bill has asked the big question. I think we're going to say Bill's question actually towards the end, because that's like your best overall 11s and stuff like that. So I'd rather say that towards the end. Ground top and Mick, if you bought Ipswich, what would you do that would improve the club? What a question.
At the moment, Jesus Christ, I mean, I'd just probably bulldoze it and turn it into a massive Weatherspoons, and everyone gets smashed on a Saturday afternoon watching the results. Which is just, oh my God. Do you know what? That's a really good question, because there's so much wrong with the club. Where would you start first?
Yeah.
There's nothing there, is it, at the moment? It's just the shell of what was once a great team. And I know everyone goes on about the history, but when you get to a certain age, you really focus on the teams of the past. Even 20 years ago when they went into the Premier League and won at Wembley, that's 20 years ago this May, isn't it? That and you just think to yourself, look how far we're fallen now. With League One, we're not even a good side in League One. All this bullshit that they keep giving, that Ipswich deserve to go up from League One. Until we Ella's like, they're absolute rubbish. The youth team or the youth players coming through. I mean, everyone talks about the talent at the club, the youth, the under 23s, but then they can't be that good. Was it they chucked them in, surely, Christ, or did they come out with the same old thing of that they're not good enough, or there's too much pressure on young shoulders? It's the same old spiel every single week. The club's dying on its arse. There's no investment. The owner doesn't care. You can just go on and on, couldn't you? You could do your own show on this for about 5 hours.
It's quite an odd way of looking at it, right? But if instead of like the top 2 getting promoted or whatever it is, say the top 3 got promoted. Now, if Ipswich were sitting in 10th, would you have any expectation of them going up? No, you wouldn't.
No.
It's just because there's this lifeline of the playoffs being dangled that people think, yeah, we'll still do it. Then they think that we'd somehow survive in the Championship, which is an utter farce. But we cannot beat a top half of the table team. So how on earth can you get through the playoffs?
Well,
you're going to get battered and look like a bunch of mugs. Like something needs to change.
You can't beat Rochdale. You can't, Gillingham, Swindon hadn't won when they got battered us live on TV. Everyone seems to be playing extra off the park. There doesn't even the new manager Cook, who I think is a really good appointment. But there's no new manager bench, is there? There's no life, there's no suddenly, the last 2 decent results I had were when Lambert was dead man walking.
Yeah.
Lambert he knew he'd play at that time, yet they went to Hull. I mean, it's almost Lambert sticking his middle finger up at Evans and saying, there you go, this is what we can do. And since then you've got a few sketchy, scratchy results, haven't you? 2-1 against Bristol Rovers. I mean, there's been several times when I thought about paying a tenner to watch on that iFollow, but then I think, my life's miserable enough without actually wasting a tenner and just watching that load of shit.
I strongly believe, I mean, Ipswich Wanderers, so this is where this question can kind of lead to, really. Ipswich Wanderers have got a campaign going to basically steal season ticket holders from Ipswich, which I absolutely love. But I do believe non-league football will benefit from not just the demise of the club, but the demise of quality in the way that they play, because people won't be bothered. A season ticket costs so much money. Like go and enjoy yourself. And I think there's that option now for people to do something else, and people will be able to see that. And non-league can have another kick up the backside in terms of getting the numbers through the gates and getting new people interested, which might lead to more volunteers and solving some of those other issues if they enjoy it enough.
Maybe.
Yeah. As long as non-league are smart about it, and then they don't start putting their prices up too much, or and carry on enticing people through, then I think that people will go and watch. You can, but then you'll always have your hardcore who think that professional football is, the only football that really sort of matters, and But then if you listen to them or you sit amongst them at Ipswich, then it's quite clear that they absolutely know nothing at all about football.
It's an odd thing to say, but you've got to make non-league football irresistible to turn up to. You've got to put something in front of people that means there's no reason why you shouldn't go there, for people to then understand how good it is when you're in the game and you're experiencing a non-league game, and when you're with mates and you can have some beers outside and everything's a lot more relaxed. Because when you've got that hook into people and you've put together some kind of package which shows people how good it can be, they will never, ever go back to the rubbish paying £35 a match and all the rest of it. They'll go back to it occasionally. That's people's team. Of course, they're going to watch it. But that's where non-league can grow. That's the opportunity it's got right now. And that's not just Ipswich. That's across the country. People have got to be smart and a bit entrepreneurial about the way they think to get people in and to engage with people.
That's the thing. It's exactly the same for clubs in Essex as well, with Colchester and Southend doing as poorly as they both are in League Two. Now is the perfect time for clubs in Essex to really cash in on that and force, but try and really entice people to come down to that level as well. It's exactly the same there. So, like you said, keep the prices of the ticket entries down low, and then just encourage people to continuously spend money at the bar and get people to buy the food and stuff like that, and just get back to just enjoying football for exactly what it is. The purest form of football is the non-league football that we all go and watch week in, week out.
Norfolk can rejoice as well, because there's a guaranteed relegation there next season.
Well,
so, no one will want to be turning up to that, will they?
That's exactly what Dan's. But he's 100% right. He's 100% right. Spreads, go on. You were about to say something there.
No, I think you're right. The comment from Maverick as well is there's lots of free footy. He's right. It's the senior of the SIL has always really been, well supported over the years. You've lost teams like Needham and Leiston, Whitton.
Yeah.
They were always very, very well supported teams on a Saturday in the SIL senior football. But then you've got Cranes, Henley, Grunsborough, Achilles, Hawley. They're all these Old Newton. There's always teams that are well supported, and again, that's part and parcel of that is that you're always assured of a friendly welcome. There'll always be someone there, or remember you from when you played, or remember you through your connections, or have seen you around. So that's the beauty about the non-league game, is that there's always a friendly face, and people generally seem to be grateful and happy to see you, which professionally you just take it for granted, aren't you? You're just a direct debit, you're just some money into their account every year or whatever. There's no. I was a season ticket holder with my kids at Ipswich when I stopped playing for 5 or 6 years, and when we stopped getting a season ticket, there was no correspondence from the club at all to say, we've noticed that you haven't renewed this year. Is there a reason why, or anything like that? It was just a case of, oh well, he's gone, they've gone. You move on to the next mug, if you like.
There was a game we went to, James. It was raining. I think it was Bennell. I can't remember who the home team were. It's lost on me. Was it against Bennell? Before lockdown? It's on the channel.
No, it was Sporting 87. Who were they playing?
No,
They
it wasn't
were-
Sporting. It was in Ipswich.
Was it?
When we
Was
went,
it?
Yeah, it's when we got lost going towards the hospital somewhere. Alex came as well.
Oh
But-
God, I can't remember now. Can't remember.
Like so many of those things ring true about getting a warm welcome, just speaking to people on the sidelines. That it's just like making that new social contact and stuff like that, and still having a tea hut and being able to go and ransoms. Thanks, Dan.
Ransoms, thank you, Dan. I knew someone in the comment section would know who it was. Yes,
Such a warm welcome, and it was so nice. And it does just live with you, like when you have those experiences. And there's been other teams as well, but it's just something that sort of it sits really well with me. About that was that sort of typified like what non-league's all about, really.
Yeah, 100%.
The way that was
100%.
done.
We've had, I've actually had a private message that came in earlier in the week. This is from, is it C How? I can't remember how his first name is on it. I can't remember. It'll probably be in the comment section right now. Who is the best signing over his managerial career? Who's been your best signing?
Oh, blimey, that's a good question. Coops was a really good signing when he came on board as my assistant. He made a massive difference for me to come on. Nick Punter I signed in goal, who helped me out for about 12, 13 games until we went to play for Hadley. He was a very, very good goalkeeper. He'd be up there with one of them. I managed to get a couple of lads a few years back from Nick Albans when he was at West. He played for Westerfield and he went over to Ipswich Wanderers, and we were struggling for players, and I just asked him for sort of if he had any young players that in the reserves or 18s that they wanted to. I could take on loan if you like, or not necessarily on loan, but take them in for SIL football and sort of toughen them up a little bit. And I could manage to get hold of Ryan Swift, Marcus Taylor, and Jack Allen, and they were really good players for us. They came as a three, and all three of them, within. After a couple of after a training session, you could see that they were going to, they were going to be really good assets for the club. They were young, enthusiastic. They're only sort of 17, 18, and they stayed for 3 or 4 years. And then Swifty went to the normal uni stuff, and then Marcus went off and played at Debenham, and he was at Cranes until whatever happens with Cranes. But he was there last season or this season. So yeah, they were really good signings. And Nick Punter in goals was a great signing as well.
Love that. He also messaged to say, another quick message for Spreads. Ask him, does he remember Terry Green chasing new players?
Yeah. Terry, when he was playing for the reserves, we would always try and get old Corley over. He was always, when he was at Woodbridge with his dad, Aaron, and we always kept trying to get him over. And Terry used to go and do a lot of the dirty work for me if he knew any lads at work and stuff. So yeah, you always use your contacts, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've had Dean on getting in the conversation. Does he remember Rambo climbing the tree?
we had a what we used to do with training. We used to the Tuesday before, we used to train every Tuesday, and the Tuesday before Christmas or in December, I used to say, right, we'll go, rather than train, we'll go out and have a Christmas meal on a Tuesday night instead of training, and we'll pick somewhere where to go. So we went down to the old Turkish restaurant along down for Hamlet, and the abomination of that Christmas tree that Ipswich had the years ago with the balls. They had loads of balls. Well, they put that down outside the university, and we'd gone into to have the Turkish to have a few beers, and we went into the Colt bar, and everyone was getting a little sort of bit leery. That was a Tuesday night, and thinking, right, probably making excuses now. Got work in the morning, and next thing you know, Rambo is halfway up this Christmas tree outside the university. So it's time for a sharp exit.
Love that. We've had Gainsborough United say, how good was Luke Dunn for you?
Is that a scouting question?
That's probably Dunny doing that himself. Dunny was a good player. He didn't never believed he was as good as he could be. He was a bit down on himself. He does need to beat the first man from his corners, though. That's one thing that does bother him a lot.
Brilliant. We've had Nick Punter, who you mentioned just a moment ago. I was going to ask for your best 1 to 11, but we'll now ask your the best goal you've seen live, and you can't say Lewis Kolf's own goal against Cranes. So the best goal you've seen live.
That Lewis Kolf goal against Cranes was a cross. Cranes beat us 1-0. That was an own goal, and it was such a cultured side foot volley past punter into the top corner. It was unbelievable. And old Sean Watson used to do all the Cranes stuff. He was there recording that game, and that went viral. I think Sport Bible picked it up on Twitter as well, and I think it was viewed over 500,000 times.
Jesus.
I mean, that was such a good goal. Let's go live. Professionally, when Ipswich played Wigan a few years ago in the Championship, I remember that was a televised game just before Christmas, and Leighton Baines absolutely went from about 35 yards. Yeah, left with one hell of a goal. Don't know about the best goal. Most important goal was we played Gwen Haston and Lewis Kolf again, who basically never ever headed a football. It was 0-0. We needed to beat them, and I think it was about the 89th minute, and a corner come across, and I don't even know why he was up for a corner, because I always kept him. He was one of the three that I always kept back because he was shit in the air. So anyway, he decided to go up for a corner and buried a bullet header into the top corner, and that was a hell of a header. That's probably the most important goal, because that actually gave us 3 points and kept us up that season. So after we were dead and buried with about 8 games to go, so that's probably the most important goal. So I'd probably say that's probably the best goal, really. That meant the most.
It's a great answer.
Like it.
Not all about ones going in the top bins, is it?
Yeah. Let's get Bill's question in, because I know you've probably had a little bit of time to prepare for this one. So it's a 3-part question, plenty of time for you to think about it. The best 11 you've played with, best 11 you played against, and the best 11 you've managed. So if we start off with the best 11 you've played with, have you got your team prepared?
I've got a team prepared. Yeah, I mean, this is going back to probably sort of mid 90s, I guess, when I was playing at Whitton and Needham and some of the clubs I played for. So in goal would have been Jason Evans or James McKenna, but probably go with Jason Evans. He was a fantastic goalkeeper. Right back would have been Darren Howell. Left back would have been Stephen Hyde, who was released at Ipswich. I played with him at Brampton, and I played left midfield. And he was I never saw any winger ever run him. He was so good. He was so well organised as a full-back. And to be honest, I love the season I had with him playing left back, because I almost played as an out-and-out winger, because no one could ever get past him, and he used to just give me the ball. And I used to just go and just almost playing in their half all game. He was such a good player to play with. Centre halves would have been Ian Ward and Dobby Hunt or Adrian Hunt, who played for Sudbury in the Bars final. I played with both of those at Needham Market. They were excellent players. Midfield would have been Dwayne Wright, who was at Whitton, Felixstowe and Hadley. Brilliant player, Dwayne. And Stowe, as Adam will say. Adam will know about Dwayne, what a great player he was. Mark Francis and a guy called Eamon Mongan. I played with him when I was at left back at Needham, and he played left midfield. And I think he scored something like 17 goals from left midfield the season we won the senior title. And me and him used to joke every game that every game the right midfielder got taken off, because we never give him any change, because he was always going forward and I was always defending. So that was a good system. Up front, the front three would be Martin Cotton, Glenn Driver and Julian Beaumont, which was guaranteed goals then. Probably, I mean, we probably wouldn't have done very well, because neither of them, any of the three probably wouldn't have passed to each other, because they all want to get back forward. Just back that goal scorers, but brilliant strikers. And probably, I played with some good managers as well. Jimmy Fitzgerald, when he was at Needham Market, great bloke, used to just hammer me all game. I mean, at times I absolutely hated the man, but he was so good. And he took a chance on me. I was playing for Stonham Reserves And he came over to watch me and Mark Francis one Sunday morning. I was playing Sunday morning, and it was the coldest Sunday I think I've ever played in. And it was howling with wind, absolutely hammering down with rain. And him and Wayne Leggett just stood there all game and watched the game. And then we took the nets down afterwards. And because we had to take the nets down because we played on the park pitch, and they'd still wait for us to come. And then they'd come over and spoke to us and said, "Will you come over and Needham Market?" And we both looked at each other and went, "Well, if you can stand and watch and wait in that just to come and talk to us, then yeah." We went over. Kevin Cunningham over at Witten, I played with. It's a funny story with Jimmy. We were playing Stonham Aspel when I was playing for Needham, and it was one of the games that won us the title. And I took this free kick, and I hit it away from the goal, and I could hear Jimmy going, "Fuck's sake, Stewie, what you done now?" And I picked out Gus Cutton, who headed the ball back across the goal to Benny, who stooped and headed it in, and he went, "Great ball, Stewie, great ball, Stewie, great ball." And about 10 seconds before that, he was absolutely calling me every name under the sun. So that was what Jimmy was like. But he was a great manager, So yeah, I was quite lucky really to play with some really good players when I was younger. Really good players.
I was going to say there's some very well respected names in that 11 as well.
And some good comments from people as well. We got some good replies to that. Martin Cotton was so good. I still to this day don't know what his strongest foot was, says Glenn. Bill Case has said, good side. James McKenna in goal. Is a good mate of mine. Shem has just given you a round of applause for that front three. Sounds quite potent from the sounds of things. So brilliant. Good on that one. So then the best 11 you've played against.
This was quite difficult, really, because when I played against players, when I played Juicing League or Furlough None as it was, I never really sort of took too much interest in who I was playing against, if you know what I mean. I never really worried about it. Sort of turned up, got my gear, knew who we were playing, and then just went in there and just got on with it. You know, I didn't really. I played in a semi-final a quarter-final when we played for Stonham, when we played Mildenhall Town away before they went up through the leagues, and they were Juicing League Division 1 side. We played them back 1999 in the Suffolk Senior Cup away at Mildenhall, and you got the players and they're sort of thumbing through the programme and they're reading all this so and so. And then you start hear sort of a couple of them say, "Oh, he's got released by Colchester or Cambridge or Norwich or Southend," and then they're just reading through all this, and I just sort of sat there and listened to it, and it said, "Look, there's one or two words there that tell you everything you need to know about that player. It's either previously was or released." I said, "If they're released, they're no better than you. They're playing exactly the same pitch, same level as you today on that pitch. Who gives a fuck? Don't worry about them. Just go out there and play your game. Let what be will be." I said, if they've been released, what does that tell you? That they're not good enough. So I said, don't be frightened of anybody. Just go out there, play your game, and just get on with it. And that's what I try to do with. So I mean, I don't know. I could have played with some really great players over the years, but I didn't really, I just tried to worry about who I was playing up against on the day and just focus on my job, doing my job for the team, and then doing what I could, and then win the ball, giving it to whoever, or whatever. So I mean, yeah, we'll go through that anyway. Ross Charles in goal, very good goalkeeper. Got Jason Bixby left back, and Murray Osman, who's younger brother of Russell Osman, left back, and Murray, he's a very, very good player. Peter Hatcher and Lee Crabtree were the centre halves. Steve Ball, who was previously at Colchester, or recently as Colchester manager, Carl Chinnery, and Paul Keys in the midfield. And then up front would be Peter Wade, Kevin Morrison, and Cole Henry. So again, some really, really good players there as well. Peter Wade was, he's probably my hardest opponent. He really gave me a tough game once when I played against him against Wanderers, but bloody get anywhere near him. But I played against him about a year later and played a lot better against him, and he remembered that. He said, "I thought I was going to have an easy game today," and actually, at least I improved a little bit as I got older. But
it's interesting. interesting what you say about the psychology of reading a program and having that little bit of momentary panic, like, oh, they've played there, and it makes your brain start ticking. And if you haven't got that person in the dressing room like yourself that would steady the ship, that's easy to let that run away as the overriding thought when you walk out onto the grass, I should imagine.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot to be said. A lot to be said of that. There can sometimes be too much emphasis on scouting a team and finding out information about a team and worrying about certain positions and pinpointing the dangers, and you kind of lose focus on what you're good at as a team and what strengths you have when you're too busy focused on what they can do. It's a really good mindset to have, to be honest.
Kind of lose target, like on the goal, worrying about what might never happen.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like that.
When we played Cranes, Cranes always had this really good corner routine where they'd actually normally the first or second corner of the game, they'd have a couple of blockers, so they'd make sure that they got someone spare and just basically block off your two best headers of the ball. So they just run into them. They were really cute at doing it. They'd obviously spent quite a while on, perfecting this, because they never got pulled up with it as a foul. And they've done us with that. They scored a goal from a corner the previous time we played with them. So the second time we played them, I said, look, right, fair enough. So I got our best header of the ball, guy called Nick. And I just said to him, right, you're spare. Don't pick anyone up. Don't mark anyone whatsoever. Spare. As soon as that ball goes in the air, go and header it.
Yeah.
And don't get yourself marking anybody. Everyone else pick up, and you just go spare. And it worked a treat. And I think that's all you need to focus on when you're playing against certain teams. If they've got set pieces that they're really good at, or if you're playing against a team, you should know who their best players are. If you play regularly, week in, week out, as a footballer, if you don't know who you're up against or who you're playing against, then you need to have a good look at yourself, because you should know who you're playing against. You should know, and you should have an idea about their strengths or weaknesses. So that should be, if you're any type of player, you've got anything about you, to me, that's a given.
Yeah.
But then just work on the little set pieces or the things that they're really good at. But don't get all carried away with it. See it as a challenge. That's how I always did it. I mean, I always felt I was quite fortunate to play the level I played, because I was left-footed. I was a left back predominantly. So I was quite fortunate. For a while I thought, well, that's probably the reason I've got the side, because I'm left-footed. But because there wasn't many of us about or whatever. But I just focused on trying to be the best I could be, and not, all the other shit was just white noise. All the other stuff about, who he plays for, what he does, blah blah blah. Nah, don't worry about that. Just go out and do your bit.
Did you have those? Is that something that was like cultured into you as you went through your football, or did you have that mentality from a young age?
No, I mean, when I was growing up, which was the 70s and early 80s, basically it was someone's mate or someone, a mate's dad who basically ran the side. We didn't have any, this is the thing that these kids or these players these days are so fortunate, because they've got so many opportunities. They've got, they've got much better training facilities. They've got much better coaching. I mean, all right, some of the coaches, who have got badges, well, I won't say too much about them, but you've got so many people nowadays who have got coaching badges and qualifications who are really, really good coaches. Whereas before we just had some bloke's dad who just make us do a load of shuttle runs, couple of laps around a pitch, 4 or 5 mile run pre-season, and then you just probably work on a few things. So, but my knowledge is basically really through when I went to play for teams like Needham Market and Witten. When you sort of play a little and senior football, when you play with sort of more experienced players, you just sort of try and almost be a bit of a sponge when you're a bit younger. Just sitting there, watch how they prepare, watch how they organise themselves, listen to what they're saying. Don't get, some of them talk a load of old shit, but I mean, most, the ones tap into some of their mentality. You know, when I was playing at Needham with Dobby Hunt, you know, he played for Sudbury in the Vars a few years before. I think he was in 13 or 12 or 13, and so he was a good centre half. And I said to him, you know, he used to, when we played at Achilles, I think he kicked about four balls clean out the ground. I said, Dobby, we're going to be here all at this rate, mate. And he said, have you ever fucking seen anyone score a goal from over there? And I went, well, no, fair point. Just clear your lines, get yourself organised, get shape. And, you know, and I thought, you know what, he's spot on. You know, while he's cleared that ball, that's off the pitch. We can get ourselves reorganised. We can get ourselves regrouped, and we've got a platform to start from. And, you know, as I've gone through, I just got more involved in sort of watching the game as opposed to sort of being a support. When I used to go and watch Ipswich, I used to try and sit, even with my kids, you know, used to sit there and watch the game. I used to sit, you know, up high behind one of the goals, and I'd just watch all the patterns of play and just look at players moving. And then you just try and get into the mentality, you know, of it all. You know, just have a bit of pride in yourself. You don't want to get beaten. It's got to be a challenge. Everything's got to be a challenge, you know.
Yeah. I love that. That's a lot of things on that.
The final question that Bill put in was the best 11 you've managed. Now, I know quite a few people will want to hear this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a bit difficult because obviously I managed on a Sunday, and then I only really managed Westerfield. I had a little time at Stowmarket before Rick Andrews came on board, when me and Shane Austin did it back in about 2010, 2011, when Stowmarket was shit. That's when we managed them. When they used to get back 6-7 points a season, that'd be two wins against Cornard, who were just a bit shitter than Stowmarket, and then a point if we were lucky somewhere else. And I think me and Shane were there for about a season and a half, and we were just hemorrhaging players, and we were just, you know, I think on the season we left with about 8 games to go when the Ricky Licence and Rick Andrews took over. I mean, we'd done 42 players that season. I mean, the players were getting paid a 5 of the season we joined, and one of the players was on contract, and he was taking 30 quid a game, and all he was interested in after the end of the game was how soon he'd get his money. I think the first game we went away to Histon and played Histon, and we lost about 3 or 4-0. And we all he was on about on the coach on the way home was when can he get his money? And, you know, so I went and had a word with Chen. Bear in mind, this was only my first game, so me and Shane quickly decided that we were going to bin him and get rid of him just to free up a bit more money, really, just to give the players a bit more money. And they were, like I said, they were getting a £5 a game. And then the second season we did it, we managed to get a tenner a game. And that was the best we could get it. And then obviously we decided to go, and Stowe obviously got some really good sponsors, or you know, and you know, the sky's the limit. Since then, they've really kicked on. So that other than that, it's sort of mostly been sort of Westerfield, really. So I mean, right. Goalkeeper Nick Punter, fantastic keeper. Yeah. Right back would be a guy called Stephen Brinkley, or who really was. I played with him most of my Sunday career, managed him on a Sunday. Played with him at Grantham as well, but yeah, managed him on a Sunday. Or Daniel Wade, Lee Brill, left back, Sean Brownell and Craig Stewart as the 2 centre halves. Both really. I mean, that's the one thing I've always been blessed with, is really good centre halves. I had Nick Warno, Dean Skinner, Chris Rose. I had play for me a few times as well. So I've always been Adam Horn, another really good left-footed centre-half. So I've always been really lucky. Even Coops played a few games, but he could have gone in goal as well, because he played a couple of games in goal for us along with Bealey, who was a really good goalkeeper. But Brownell and Craig Stewart as centre-halves. Then midfield would be Junior Soames, who I managed on a Sunday, went to school with. Junior, he played for Norwich professionally for a while and then had a really good Thurlow Nunn career. Luke Dunn, who mentioned earlier, another good footballer. And whether Adam will know, Gareth Ward, who played for Stowmarket, he had a really horrible dislocated fracture of his ankle away at Newmarket, and that ended his career. But he was a really, really good player. And then up front would be Sam Horn, Ryan Swift, and probably either Daniel Bukovic or Berkey or Marcus Taylor. Now, Berkey, probably people say, oh, you've managed much better players than him, but he turned up for every training session. He trained fiercely. He was so competitive. He was so bought into everything as a manager. You know, he bought into what you were trying to do. You know, if you left him out, he sulked a little bit, but he always wanted to go on and prove you wrong. And, you know, just his attitude was probably why he gets in that over some other players, really, because his attitude was just phenomenal, really. He's everything about what a local footballer should be. He's just got fantastic attitude.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah, we've got some good responses to that one on there. We had a few other questions that came in the chat whilst you were going through some of your teams on there. Ben's put, can Spreads remember the 8-7-7-7 game for the Rosary in the snow?
Yeah, we played. Oh, I think we was at Ransoms. We were playing this. I think they were called Headblade Wanderers or someone. And I mean, that game should never have gone ahead. I don't know why the referee got there and said, "Yeah, we'll play it." But that was pissing down with snow all day. I think we were probably the only game that went on in Suffolk that day, and that was freezing cold. We were about 6-0 up, 6-1 up, and the referee wanted to call the game off, and we say, "No, there's no way we're calling the game off because then we don't get the points." And anyway, we conceded loads of late goals because they were freezing cold by that time, and that was turning really unpleasant. At the end of the game, I just took them in the change room and just give them the mother of all bollockings for just actually a really shit last 20 minutes, even though we were 6-0 up at one time. So that's probably what Freddie's going on about, the fact that because I was freezing cold and wet, I got really annoyed about it all. But yeah, that should never go ahead that night.
Brilliant. Slim has put on here, what advice would you give any manager starting out in the game?
Really, just be true to yourself. You know, you're not going to be flavour of the month with the players. You know, it's very difficult, but you've got to stand by your decisions at the end of the day. You know, everyone's got an opinion. You know, we all know that. You know, opinions are like arseholes, isn't they? Everyone's got one. You know, and you just got to just be true to yourself. Really, you know, you're not gonna please all of the people all the time. Make your decisions. You know, I used to just, like I said, I used to always say to the players at the end of the game, or always, if I didn't pick it, if we had some subs, 5 subs, and we could only use 3, I'd always thank the 2 subs that I didn't use before I'd start my debrief at the end of the game. You know, all right, that probably meant absolutely sod all to them because I just ruined their Saturday. But at the same time, I just felt as though they deserved that little bit of respect because they were part of that 15, 16, and they were the 2 that unfortunately didn't get on. So just be true to yourself. Stand by your decisions. You're not going to get everything right, but nor the players.
Yeah.
You know, and surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with good people. You know, if you've got people you can use for advice, then use. You know, tap into people's experience and knowledge. But yeah, just stick by your guns. You're not going to please all the people all the time.
Is that a bit about having your own personal values, like whenever you approach a job or a project in any way? Is it like things like that? That's like quite a nice touch. Like no one's really mentioned things like that they do in a job to, that are important to them as a certain thing. Like that bit about like thanking the subs that didn't play and stuff afterwards. It's the things like that you'd always set out to say, in addition to that, like these are things I'm always going to do every game because that's who I am. That's my integrity in terms of what.
Yeah, I can do it. I used to just sort of explain to him, that it's just one of those things. It's not personal. It's what we think is best for the team that day or the game. And you can't, like I say, you can't please everyone. So just do what you think is right. I mean, at Westerfield, when I was there, the last game of every season, I used to get like Cush when he was here, God rest his soul. Fred, who was the secretary, Gordon, who used to do all the bits and pieces, Phil, and I'd get and Robbie, and I'd get everyone in the change rooms at the end of the game, and I would thank them personally in front of all the players at the end of the game, just as the last game of the season, just to say, look, thanks for all their support and help, and make sure that the players were aware of who these people were and introduce them, and just say that these are the lifeblood of the club. You know, people like me and the players, they'll come and go. You know, but these are the boys who have devoted their lives, some of them 40, 50, 60 years to their club, you know, to keep Westerfield. And it's not the same. It's not just Westerfield. It's, you know, any club, Old Newton, wherever you go, Hawley, you know, Stowe, you know, Grunsborough. All these clubs are just, you know, got good old boys who have always been there, and they will always support them no matter what. And I used to always make sure that whatever happened at the end, last game of every season, I'd call them in and thank them in front of all the players, and then I'd thank the players. So it's just something I did, really. I mean, some managers wouldn't say anything, you know, they just go through the end of the game and that's it. But I was well aware that when I played, you know, how I'd like to be spoken to as a player or treated as a player. And I think if you're decent as a player or decent as a manager and you respect the players, then, you know, you'd hope that they'd show the same. And I was quite fortunate in that Westerfield. We never really were attacking the top end of the table, but we were always competitive enough to try and do well. I mean, we still couldn't get bloody players over, and we had probably the best facilities in the league at that time. We still couldn't get players over who wouldn't take the jump. So obviously my values didn't mean that much to some players. So, but there you go.
I'm really pleased you've shared that, though. It's so nice to hear those little things that people do and that are important to them. And I don't know, it makes you reflect a little bit on the things that you do personally day to day and how you can improve yourself. And introducing those people and stating their importance should never be overlooked, I don't think.
No, definitely. Without them, you're nothing. Without, you know, this is the thing that will happen to these clubs over the years, is that these old boys and that and girls and or ladies, I should say, you know, they're going to get older. They'll get less enthusiastic, or you know, or they'll get ailments or illnesses, you know, and they might not be able to do it anymore. But so where's the next volunteers coming from?
Yeah, we kind of spoke about this a little bit before we came on live. Do you see this as the biggest problem for non-league football moving forward in years to come? Is that one of the biggest issues you foresee?
I think so, purely and simply because I don't see where the next wave are coming from.
Yeah,
I don't. You know, you've got, you know, the players' apathy nowadays, and the fact that some don't turn up for training or what. I mean, you know, years ago when I played or when I was injured, I'd turn up for training. You know, you'd get people turn up for training and watch training if they were injured. You know, they'd stay in the bar for a drink afterwards. You know, you get people turn up. You get people turn up. You don't even get people turning up for end of season dues these days. You know, and Jesus, back in the day, in you know, when I was playing, that's one of your highlights of the season. You know, you'd absolutely get smashed off your face. You'd probably end up dancing with some 80-year-old missus who would bloody love it, have the time of her life, and she'd love all the young lads, and that would be a bit of banter, and you'd really enjoy it. Now you say, right, end of season dues, so and so, they don't want to bring their missus or girlfriend or whatever. Which, okay, that's how it is. But then the players don't turn up. What are you doing? Well, I've already made plans to go out in town or whatever. Bollocks. That's your end of season due. You've been playing with these guys all season. You know, show a little bit of respect to the guys and the club you played for. And then you start to wonder why some of the, you know, and then you've got some of the committees saying, well, you know, you don't even get players turn up for the end of season due, or you don't get players to turn up for the fundraisers, you know, and people put on fundraisers to raise money for the club. So that, because the quickest thing that players moan about these days is, oh, I ain't got a kit bag, or I ain't got a tracksuit, or I ain't got a polo shirt. Turn up for the fucking race night, then you bell it, and then you'll have one. You know, help support the club. You know, at the end of the day, these things have been put on for your benefit.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get the same 10 or 12 or 15 people turn up. So it's always the same people chucking the money in. And we even tried to do like, well, if they don't turn up, we'll just charge. They've got to pay a £5. But I said, but what's the point? They'd quite happily pay a £5 not to turn up, because then they can just sod off in town again. So, don't charge them anything. Don't charge them anything. If they don't want it, then, so be it. I said, because to me, there's no point in charging someone a £5 or a £10, and then they'd rather pay that, and then you'll see on Facebook or Instagram or whatever later on, or some of the other players will, that they've been out, off their tits in the town or doing something daft or whatever, rather than a tender race night or whatever. And this is what, as a committee, when you've got these people are sitting there, and they've probably got no interest in sitting there and listening to a load of old crap music or whatever at 70 years old or 80 years old, but they're turning up because that's their club, that's the club that they love, and they love seeing the lads, and they love seeing what they're doing. And then you think, well, as they're getting older and older and older, what's going to happen to them? Because now at my age or 50s or whatever, who you want now to start getting involved in clubs, but then you've got the youngsters, like Adam was saying earlier on, that we've lost so many young players to football completely. So they're not going to, when players get to 30, 35, if they don't manage, I don't know, they'll probably go and watch a town, or they've got families or work or whatever. But there's so very few people now getting involved in football. So very few people.
Yeah, very, very true.
It's hard. Like on Maverick's point, people spend money when they go out in town, but I think some of these clubs, all they're asking for is for the players to chuck a £5 in every week to take part on the pub card or whatever, to raise a bit of money for the club or whatever, and just make it a community rather than just the place they play football.
Yeah.
It's a really hard thing to understand from an outsider's point of view, how people don't do that. But
the whole thing with football is all about the camaraderie and the togetherness. Used to be the old saying that used to be 5 and drive when you used to play football back I hope there's no police watching, but to do that, the clubhouse would still be buzzing at 6 o'clock, sometimes 6:30. And nowadays everyone's got their phones out at 10 to 5. They're looking to see how their accumulator's done. They watch the results. They have a can of Coke and a bag of cheese, and then they're buggered off home. So by about 5:05, the clubhouse is probably only about 6, 7 people in there. And to me, the whole thing about football is just is the whole camaraderie thing, isn't it? That's why I was, when you couldn't have clubhouses open or change rooms, that I'm amazed that so many people wanted to play football back in the season. I know, because I'm probably older generation and I wasn't involved with football at the time, but to me, being in the change rooms is all about the togetherness, and that will take you a long way in tight games, tough games, when you're really under the pump. That togetherness, that team spirit, when you're 1-0 down in the 85th minute or whatever, or you're 2-1 up and you're down to 10 men or whatever, that team spirit will get you over the line in some games, 100%.
Goes further.
Yeah. No, I like that. We had Paul who asked, what are your thoughts on the standard of refereeing over the years and how it's affected the game from a manager's point of view?
That Mr. Kitson, is it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
The typical referee asking a referee's question. Paul's one of the league's best officials, in my opinion. You know what? The easiest thing to do is criticise, isn't it? There's always going to be levels. There was referees that when I played, that I really enjoyed them refereeing a game, and if I knew that they were refereeing a game, I knew it would be a good game. You knew you'd treat fairly. You could have a bit of banter with them. You could talk to them. Most of the referees in the SIL, I think, are all decent, honest guys. No, they don't go out of the way to make mistakes. They don't go out of the way to spoil someone's afternoon. Sometimes it's the players' attitudes that spoils it. It's like everything in life, isn't it? In football, there's players that are better than others, and it's the same with referees. There's some referees who are really good, who you straight away you think, yeah, we're going to have a good afternoon. We've got him. and there'll be some of the other guys who you just think, well, we're not going to get nothing out of him. We're not going to get nothing out of him. We never do. We never have done. So, yeah. The standard, I think there's been 3 or 4 really good referees. Again, we haven't got a game, have we? So we need to. I think sometimes players need to show a little bit of respect, or a little bit more respect to the referees. Definitely than they do currently. I've always tried to be fair if I can, or honest rather than. There's been a couple of referees that I've really had an issue with at the end of the game, and what I thought, but as per that interview, but yeah, no, most of them are all right. I think that most of them are good guys. You can approach them, you can talk to them. Paul Kitson, Irv, you see Irv on there. He's a character, and who could not like Irv? Even if he's had a terrible game, he'll still come in the bar afterwards. He'll have a drink. He'll sit there. He'll discuss football with you. He'll listen to you, talk to you, and that is, if he's made a mistake, he's honest enough. But they only get to see it once, don't they?
Yeah. Exactly it. Yeah. Exactly it. Ben's comment on here: best and worst rivalry you've experienced.
Rivalry, blimey. Didn't really have many sort of local football. Was more about I remember playing for Brantham against Leiston one Saturday lunchtime. It was an early kickoff, and we went over to Leiston when Leiston were playing really well, and we did try and kick the shit out of them a little bit, but that was a really good game. When I played for Stonham Hawley was always tasty. There was always a lot of players that went from one to the other and vice versa. So that was quite tasty. I remember going away when I was at Needham to Swaffham, and there was a bit of racist abuse to one of the Needham players from a load of Swaffham dickheads behind a goal. It was even better when I curled the free kick right over and he headed it into the back post to put us 1-0 up with about 2 minutes to go, and he went past them and given them the cup deer. So that was always, you sort of local derbies when you played, really, sort of Needham, Whitton were always good games, but I wouldn't say there was any worse rivalry. It's all because mostly local football, a lot of the players know each other, don't they? The only time you might get some spite is if there's been a really contentious refereeing decision in the previous encounter, or a couple of dodgy tackles, or some contentious sendings off or whatever. But most of it's not too bad, really.
Yeah,
just get on, don't you?
Yeah, like that. I've had a question coming on Instagram. I don't even need to. I can't remember who it was asked it, but my phone's off at the moment. The question I had sent in to me was, when were you happiest in football?
When was I happiest?
Yeah.
As a manager, when the final whistle went and you got a positive result. The funny thing was, as a manager, it wasn't always. Sometimes it wasn't always about the result. Sometimes it was about the performance. So if you were playing one of the, as Westerfield manager, we were always probably down the sort of the lower regions of the table. That if you ran someone close to the top of the table, whether it be Cranes, Henley, Achilles, or whoever, and they've beaten you 3-2 or 2-1 or 1-0 or whatever, and you've nicked a point, and the performance was what you wanted from your players. Sometimes I could take more from that than I could a 2-0 win, or and not play particularly well. Happiness in football was probably when when I senior getting to the senior cup final was good with Stonham Aspel, playing for Needham when we won the SIL senior title. Then we played at Bloomfield against Ipswich Town when they come and opened the ground. That was a good day. Having Carla as mascot when we won the cup back in '91 on a Sunday morning, that was good. Yeah, you don't admit I did. Probably the worst one was when I dislocated my shoulder at 43, helping my mate out playing Saturday afternoons. So that was probably the worst. The rest of it's always been, football's football, and there's the highs and lows all the time.
Yeah, Definitely. Yeah, brilliant. Any questions that you've had sent in, Adam, before we kind of wrap things up for tonight?
No, everything was on the general thread. So
yeah, good man. Spreads, it's been good chatting with you this evening. It's been brilliant to get your kind of thoughts and insight on the game and getting some stories from your time. Final question from me: when are we likely to see you back in the dugout? Are you hoping soon?
Yeah, hopefully next season. We'll see. We'll see what's what. If not, I won't be lost to non-league. I'll still be about watching a game here and there. But no, next season if something comes up. If not, it will be what will be, and I'll still be around. But I'd just like to say massive respect to you two guys. Really, I know you're probably getting bored of listening to it every week, and you don't take praise particularly well, but you deserve a lot of it because what you've done throughout. While this has been going on, you've kept the social aspect of the game that most of us really do enjoy. You've kept that on week after week after week, and some weeks probably maybe been a bit difficult, and probably this week being in turn that you've just got some ropey old get in as special guest because there's no one else available. But what you guys do week in week out is phenomenal. So thank you from me and probably I guess from everyone that your input is so much appreciated.
Thank you so much. It's, you're not on just because you're a ropey old git, though, mate.
I thought you were going to talk about an hour and a half out of Super 6 tactics about how you just talk the leaderboard and then just try and throw it away as the league comes to conclusion.
I was going to say, people are on your tail, mate. So
I'll tell you what, should we talk about that very quickly before we disappear? Because how do you do it? That would be a simple question to you, because like you're miles ahead of a lot of people, and I know Adam says the gap's closing up, but still you are miles ahead.
Well, I mean, I watch the show every week. As soon as you put the link on, I click into it, and within about a minute, I've done it. It's no thought. I don't look at the tables. I don't look at the form guide. I just purely go by gut, what I think. So right. if it's luck, it's luck. If it's I'd like to call it an educated guess, but it is just really, what I think, and that is the long and the short of it, really.
Pretty much like me. It's like if Grimsby come up, I think they're going to lose. My brain always says Grimsby will lose. It's doing the same with Ipswich lately as well.
I think they got a decent result today, actually. I can't quite remember. But yeah, I'll tell you what, Adam, do you want to just briefly explain the Super 6 this week? You haven't had a chance to update the tables as of yet, have you? Because
we made a bit of a boo-boo between us. We didn't check the dates on the fixtures, and the MK Dons was today.
Hold my hands up for that one. The Kings Lynn game was being played today, so I didn't really give Adam a massive amount of time to tally up the results from this weekend. So next week, we will have 2 weeks worth of results to kind of go through and have a table to update you with. But
Non-league football shop have confirmed they're definitely coming on board. So we've got more prizes all over again for April.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So thank you very much to those guys. But yes, the link for the this week's Super 6 is now in the chat. If you want to get involved, it's Derby versus Norwich, Ipswich versus MK, Cambridge versus Exeter, Oldham versus Colchester, Southend versus Crawley, and Kings Lynn versus Chesterfield. You do have to get these in by Friday evening because the Southend game is on Friday night. So yeah, get involved, get your predictions in. As I said, we will have 2 weeks worth of results to go through next week, but yeah, we'll have the league tables updated. We might even post something out on social media depending on when Adam can get things updated, because I know you've got a busy week upcoming, mate. But spreads, Ipswich versus MK, very quick thoughts on that before we disappear tonight.
1-1.
1-1. Wow.
1-1. Shit show, shit game.
Adam, do you have anything to say on that one?
I wouldn't be like, knowing the stats that sit behind MK's football, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat us.
Do you know they've got the third best possession stats?
Yeah, they've been playing possession football all season long. Town won't know what to do. It'll go completely against everything they're doing. Like Town are just basing the ball on getting it and hoofing it long. I think first half today, Town had 20 clearances.
Wow.
That will absolutely melt them. So 2-0 for me. They can't score. Like I'm saying 2-0 because Norwood's out again. They've got no one in that team that can score. I think they've got about 4 goals between them. The rest of them.
Jesus, Dean's going in big. Look at that for a score prediction. Jesus Christ. I don't know about that one, mate. We'll see. But yeah, Super 6 link is in the chat. Go ahead and fill in for this month's competition. As I said, we'll have 2 weeks worth of stuff to update you on. We're going to wrap things up there, guys. So thank you very much if you have taken the time to watch this evening. Remember, if you're watching from a YouTube perspective, give us a big fat thumbs up. Make sure you hit that button before you leave the chat tonight. It really does help with the algorithm. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. All of the normal stuff. If you are one of our Patreon members, Ko-fi members, anything like that, if you want some link for the merch that we've got going on at the moment, links for everything is in the description of this video. Thank you to Spreads for coming on. Thank you for once again, Adam, for your time this evening. Massively appreciate it. We will see you all next Monday. But until next time, thank you very much for joining us, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Adios.
Cheers.